to address the elephant in the room, and the fact that the head coach of La Rochelle is Ron O'Gara.
I know.
And probably like the greatest Munster player of all time. Like, I mean, the graw anyone from Munster has for O'Gara is just incredible. Like, so one side of me is like, yeah, I mean, you got to back the Irish teams. Like, just like, I you know, as I said, most of them play for the national team, you know, and it's a fellow province, like, but the other time it's like, oh, I love to see O'Gara get a win, like, you know.
So who are you shouting for then?
I don't know, I haven't decided yet.
Joe presents House of Rugby, United Rugby Championship, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.
Hello and welcome back to House of Rugby, URC. We've been away for the last few weeks, guys, but we're back now with the full crew together and plenty of rugby to look back on. Greg, how are you?
Jason, I'm great. Great to be back in the studio. How are you?
Not too bad. Don't you miss me?
I did miss you, yeah, and I miss Lindsay as well.
Oh, thanks.
Did you miss us, Lindsay, did you?
Yeah.
Of course I missed you. The gang's all here. The gang's back together.
Yeah,
Me and Lindsay actually saw each other at the RPI Rugby Players Ireland Awards the other day. So
Yeah, I couldn't get in to say even hello to the crowd of
Up
people.
in the VIP balcony somewhere, was it?
VIP and just
Hiding
surrounded
away,
by people.
red tape, the whole
not
lot.
at all. I
was trying to play it cool. I was like,
No, I just had to go along to collect Terry Kennedy's award. That's how you know when you're retired and old, is when you're collecting awards for other people.
I know. I got to collect Eve Higgins, one of her 4 awards or something. So
Yeah. Oh my
maybe
gosh,
she might donate a watch to me.
She was nominated for everything.
Yeah, she did a fantastic season, 17
Yeah.
15. So
Eve
yeah,
Higgins. When I suppose if you're dominating 15s and 7s, like, it's going to happen, isn't it?
has to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? And you can't even envy her. She's just too nice. That's the terrible thing.
Oh, did you get anything else over the last 2 weeks while you were away from this lovely studio?
We had our club awards, so that was on the Friday, last Friday. So that was a good night with Railway Union. So a couple of awards there and 100 cappers, so it was really nice. And it was good to be back out with people. Actually, I forgot how long it was.
Yeah.
And then we had the RPI. It was good.
You were back playing basketball as well, aren't you?
Stop! Yeah, I can't move today, lads. I only played a couple of hours ago. I played a Masters tournament, so it was over 40. So I played with the Wild Rovers, and it was good. It was good to be back. I forgot my anaerobic training is lacking, so yeah, my lungs are on fire. But yeah, it was good to catch up with the old school.
Great stuff. Did you get anything else yourself?
Nothing too crazy now. I kind of was over in London for a bit of work, doing a bit of presenting and kind of brand work over there. But it's good to be back in the studio. You were in Spain, weren't you?
I was over at a wedding over in Spain, so it was lovely.
Yeah.
It looks
got
good.
a bit of a tan, but it's kind of seems to be fading away now again. Like, but hopefully you'll get it back now in Marseille this weekend.
Yeah, 100%.
Stay out in the sun celebrating Leinster's 5th star.
Look, we'll get into it. So I know you want to get into it. We're obviously going to start with the big game over the weekend. Top of the table, kind of a Interpro derby clash. Well, not so much top of the table in terms of Munster, but yeah, Leinster C 35, Munster 25.
Leinster C. Would you say it was their C team?
B and a half anyway.
I think that's it's like, people are going around saying that yesterday. I was at the game. And the people were saying Leinster C team. I was like, that's harsh on the guys that are on the pitch. And I'd say the Leinster guys nearly had a chip on their shoulder, being like, everyone thinks we're the C players, so let's go out and just pummel Munster, which unfortunately they did.
I was impressed with them. I think the first half was cracking. It was like a really open, expansive game. It was like toe to toe. There was some good tries, like Frawley's cross kick for Penny's first try, a minute 25 on the clock. I was like, holy Lord, this is great. Then Jack O'Donoghue's obviously, he's up for try of the week, one of the nominees. So I just thought it was a great game, and I actually thought myself, with the youth that Leinster had put out, I was like, maybe their inexperience would tell in the end. And yeah, we closed it out. Like Rory Loughlin's try, the build-up, Lammer was back, his footwork. Like all I could picture when I was watching the game was like, you know, like the noise of a car, like speeding off again. I was like, wow, he's back. So I just thought we played with no inhibitions. And I think maybe the lack of experience, and they've nothing to pitch against, they just didn't really play within themselves, just kept to script and plugged away. And
it's just such a strong squad, you know what I mean? Like, they've got 50 guys there that are just, and unfortunately for Munster, as we saw against Toulouse and as we saw against Exeter, when they've got the majority of their top names available, they're a good team at times and they play some good rugby. But Peter O'Mahony having him missing the weekend, like as we saw when he went off against Toulouse, made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Munster can't really afford to lose those 3 or 4 players.
The 3 massive players are missing.
Yeah.
Peter O'Mahony.
Byrne.
Byrne was missing. Delande was missing.
Yeah.
They're 3 massive players. I know we're clutching at straws here.
No, but it's,
And we were playing
but you're
against
right.
the
You're
Leinster
right.
B team.
Like
But
Leinster can do that. Leinster can lose a Henshaw, or they can lose a Van der Fleer, or they can lose a Doris. But
Yeah.
the guys they've got coming in are
We need our best guys playing if we're going to beat Leinster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well-
But I think with the Leinster, everyone's saying B team, C team, whatever it is, the second string guys. But you have to remember, week in, week out, these guys train against the Leinster A team. So they're used to going up against the Josh Van der Fleers, the Johnny Sextons, the Gary Ringroses. So like their level of training is just so much higher than every other team in Europe. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, there's Stuart Lancaster screaming at them. So you have to remember, these guys are unbelievably trained. They definitely weren't worried going up against Munster, like, you know, just go out and perform. And they also had nothing to lose as well, which is a very safe place to be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They had their home quarter final. None of them are probably expecting to get into European final teams. It's like, let's just go out and play. And they did.
They absolutely did, and they looked like they were enjoying themselves. Do you know what I mean? Some of the offloads, I think McCarthy's offload, as I said, for the O'Loughlin try, like he's like being held up and he still had the confidence to just look and like, you know, move the ball. Max Deegan as well, just on the cusp of being tackled.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
pass,
they were really confident and they looked like they were enjoying themselves. But I think it's testament to Lancaster and Leo Cullen now to be able to keep a squad of 50 men happy. That when they come in, like the likes of Ed Byrne, who's, you know, sat on the outskirts and he comes in and he does a job. Like,
He was given captaincy as well,
yeah,
which is
like,
kind of cool.
you know, then you've Cronin is over 200 odd caps, Devon Toner, the same thing. So they come in and there's no drop in standard or calibre.
No.
So to keep that level of intensity and investment for 50 guys is I think, testament to the culture that they've built. And I know we kind of chuck this around, but you know yourselves, having been in high performance, like to keep all the egos happy, you're like, that's good. Like, it is good.
Yeah, they're definitely doing something right there.
Hugely.
Yeah, I was really, really impressed with Jordan Larmour as well. He seems to be back to where he was when he first broke onto the scene. I could only remember, he made about 13, he beat 13 defenders, I think, on the weekend. But what I remembered was his try in Thomond Park. Do you remember when he ran around the whole Munster team and scored in the corner and Zebre chased him down?
Yeah.
And just about...
That was his moment when he broke onto the scene, like, and no one knew much about him. Like,
Exactly.
And he just did that, and you're like, whoa.
That was back then, and now he's back to do it in that form again, which is so exciting for Irish rugby. Like,
Who do you drop for him?
But who
I'm
do you
sorry,
drop
to,
for
like,
Jordan
I
Larmour?
mean, you don't drop Hugh Keane at Leinster or Ireland for him. You look at the wings. James Lowe is playing the best rugby of his career.
Mac
Conway
Hansen.
is still
Jimmy
there.
O'Brien.
Mac Hansen's still there. Jimmy O'Brien is still there.
Balakoon is there.
Balakoon is still there.
An informed Larmour, and you can't even get him in this. Like, is he? Will he
I think
go
he'll
to
go
New
to New
Zealand?
Zealand. I think you have to. Now that you have the 2 Maori games as well, that's finally been confirmed. You've got 5 games over New Zealand. You're probably looking at, like, that's like a Lions tour, essentially. Like, you're probably going to bring a squad of 45 players, maybe.
Yeah, but I
would
think
think.
now just try and adapt his game. I'd like to see him at full back, and then obviously he gives an option on the wing, so that you know, he's 2 string to his bow there with that. But what I did like as well about him yesterday, when he made, like, he ran over 200 meters. You know, he beat so many over
13
defenders, wasn't it?
defenders to beat. Yeah.
Normally we've seen him where he's made that break and he's done all the great work, but then he's kind of got isolated and turned over the ball. But he didn't do that yesterday, and I was like, okay, this is a man who seems to have taken his
Matured.
opportunity. Yes, he's come of age. And I think that was key yesterday because obviously, like Ken Dillon and you know, your back row was still very good. You've still some turnover specialists there that were on show yesterday. So I was like, if this fella gets isolated, all that good work's down the drain. So I thought, yeah, I was impressed with him. I was impressed with Scott Penny as well. He's another guy who... He was out there in the wing. He had a nice finish. Normally he's just like bundling himself over. His chop tackling, I thought, was credit.
Yeah.
Ryan Bart, like, what an athlete.
Yeah, Scott Penny did take his try very well. Baird had another unbelievable game. I was really impressed with Kieran Frawley until he went off as well. And I was like, okay, here's a little chance for us now. Kieran Frawley's gone off. Just brought on another unbelievable Leinster player. Like, it's like, you just can't compete with them.
Yeah.
I think, though, when you look at the game as a whole, like, you know, Murray got that lucky try just after half the time, but then they got that penalty try and then that second try. And as soon as they went behind, the heads dropped. And, you know, Leinster don't have to win this game. Like, Munster needed to win that game to get a home quarter final. And now they've got to go up to Kingspan to take on Ulster.
Yeah.
But for your heads to drop in the last game of the regular season, when you're like, it's not like they all of a sudden were 20 points behind. Like, they were only a score behind.
Yeah.
And they just fell flat and they were kind of like, okay, we've lost now.
Exactly.
Well, especially when they had more at stake. What
Yeah.
did you think of the penalty try?
I don't know. It's a tough one.
Kind of
isn't it?
harsh. It was kind of harsh. And
Yeah.
Niall Scannell then gone off was, like, he's again one of the more experienced players. It's your hooker. You know, your set piece was probably key to beating us yesterday. You know, when the game was open and expansive, it suited Leinster. But you probably needed to. Well, I know listen to Marcus Horan on the commentary. He wanted like Munster to speed it up, but I think game management and when they need to slow down when we were close, in the 22 or close to the Leinster's line, then they would have needed the big guys. But
yeah, I think Munster started well as they came out with the Jack O'Donoghue try, which we'll see later for try of the week. We have Mike Haley had a really good try, really
good pick,
smart.
Yeah.
But then, as you said, when Leinster started to get their 2-3 scores, there was just complete lack of energy. Yeah. It seemed like the Munster lads didn't know. They were all looking at each other, who's going to take the ball on here. Murray was taking 2-3 seconds at the ruck, looking for someone, shipping it off to like a Jeremy Loughman, who's class, but like, do you know what I mean? That's not creative. Like, do you know what I mean? Where Leinster are just so like around the corner. They have their systems, they're going. They know what they're doing, and this is a second string team. Where Munster were like throwing balls on the ground. He was epitomised by, did Ursay throw the ball on the ground at one time?
Yeah.
And I was like,
and
if
Carberry
he's
overthrew it as well.
Yeah, and I was like,
it's like the last time. Remember the time they came out to Stone Park and you were going absolutely giving out yarns about them, like just completely just kind of losing their heads and just going, all right, we're doing this and throwing passes here and putting these stupid kicks in behind. And you're like, what are you doing? Just relax. Okay, you're still in the game. Do you know, get back to basics. What's the game plan? Okay, what can we do? What can we do?
There was one stage I was watching it and I was like, the whole Munster team, all 15 players were on the one side of the pitch. And I was like, as a system in a professional team, that never happens.
No.
Like that doesn't happen in school rugby. I was like, there's something going on here, guys. There's no one taking the bull by the horns here. Yeah. Just getting everyone chill out. Let's sort this out. Like I think they just could you say the occasion got to them?
What I was just going to say is that without being no offence, because I know you like Lindsay's digging the knife in here, but do you think it's psychological with Leinster and Munster?
I would think. I think it's a bigger problem. It's yes, there is a certain issue there with Leinster because it's been so long since they don't get many results off them anymore. Yeah. But the issue at the moment, I think Johan Van Gaan is already in bat and he's been in bat for the last few months. You know what I mean? You can see his comment stuff after the game. It was kind of like, oh, look, that's how the season went. And you're like, all right, yeah.
You think it's a Johan Van Gaan
I
problem?
think it's a problem where like there's just a lot of issues there. There's Johan Van Gaan's going to be leaving, JP Ferreira is going to be leaving, a couple of other guys are going to be leaving at the end of the season. You're going to have a new head coach coming in, you've got a new backs coach coming in, you've got a new forwards coach coming in. Yeah. Sooner this season is over, most can get back to the drawing table in the summertime and start with a new system and start building up again, I think, because this season is just...
I don't think all hope is lost just yet, no, Jason.
Oh, no, come here. To be honest with you, they have a chance of beating Ulster. I don't think they have a chance of winning the URC, if I'm honest with you. I really don't. And there's no point in saying that, because if you get to a semi-final or a final against Leinster in Dublin, it's going to be the same again. So what's going to happen?
Is that how it lines up if we beat Ulster?
I'm not sure on the line, but if Leinster gets it, Leinster have a home quarter, semi and final. So I don't see them.
You eventually have to play Leinster again. But I think Munster have an opportunity to beat Ulster up there. I think Munster have been playing well up until last week, obviously we just saw, but up that they were getting good results, they're playing well, they're scoring lots of tries, second most tries scored in the league, second most points scored in the league as well after Leinster, I believe. So they're a good team, so it could go up to Ravenhill or Kingspan, whatever it's called now, get the win, and then a semi-final URC, that's decent enough way to kind of bow out, is it? Well, I don't know who we're going to meet, we could win the semi as well, but if it's a Leinster or a Stormers or something, you never know. But
I think it'll be a tough game. Ulster were impressive.
You think, yeah?
I think they're impressive. I think it's going to go one or two ways. Yous have come back off a defeat, so you're either going up there looking for to avenge that and kind of give, I suppose, two fingers to the doubters. But Ulster, it's not too long ago since you beat Ulster and Ravenhill, which exactly. No one has done. So it's kind of like which team is going to win with the mindset, because I think it could be a good game, but. Yeah, if Ulster have a full team, like I thought Ian Henderson was impressive, I think the pack will really match. I think Timoney again had a standout, and obviously we'll go into that game in more detail.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a hard one. I don't think it's
if they can get the likes of Delende back for that game, or Mangy back for that game, I don't know what the current status is on Byrne and whether he's going to be close to coming back towards the end of the season or not. We've just got Conway back. We've Earls back the last 2 weeks. So yeah, if you can get them all on the pitch together, then maybe. I know Snyman's been back training for the last 2 weeks. Probably too soon for him to get onto that pitch, especially straight into a knockout game. But
Jean Klein and Jenkins are kind of filling that hole, I think.
But if you got someone like Simon back, like that's a whole other level. You know what I mean? Like a Snyman or a Jenkins. I mean, there's a World Cup. The 2 games we've seen him play for Munster and the games we've seen him in the past, like you've got someone like him, and he's someone that can make a huge difference next year if we can just tape up those 2 knees.
He's a next year guy. He'd be way too green to come back in. He's not.
I'd say next year.
They won't risk him. What's the point now after such investment in him, and he's just been injured since he arrived. So I think at this stage you have a good enough squad. With more or less the rest available. Plus, will Ireland have a dictate over some of the guys going to New Zealand?
It's
Munster.
interesting one,
And you'll be happy with this one now. I'm finally going to say Murray had a bad game. I don't think he played well.
Hallelujah.
I think he lacked creativity. I thought also the lads outside him weren't helping him, so that's probably why he seemed to be like looking for fellas.
Probably the haircut, I'd say.
The new haircut, the V. He's bringing back the V. Surely that was a forfeit or something. He looks great, like, but it's just the V, man. What's that? I was 16 years old and we had that haircut.
Sorry, Connor.
Are you all right? So you said he's a bad game, and now you're going after his hair, and
his heart's broken. Like, his heart is broken.
I don't know. I was sitting at the game and I was just like, this just isn't good enough, guys. Like, do you know what I mean? And I looked at the bench. I was like, is Casey there? And Casey wasn't there.
Oh, you'll come back and look for Casey now. Well, don't come looking for him. Yeah, no, he got pulled last minute, didn't he?
He got pulled last minute. I think he had a little knock. Like, Paddy Patterson came on and played really, really well.
I know, but I could see Casey. That's what I mean. Like the last 20 especially, and I know the argument, but he definitely would have sped up that game for you and just created something. You know, he just needed someone to create something, and I think, my opinion of Mr. Casey, so I think he would have come on and done something. But you know what? These are not over it yet. So
will we move on to the Kingspan, to Munster's opponents in the quarterfinals? They came away with a 24-21 win against Hennessy Sharks. Do you think that game, Lindsay?
I thought Ulster were impressive. You know, Billy Burns, I thought, was a man full of confidence. You know, he set up 2 amazing tries with skip passes. For the Lowry run out to McElroy on the wing, and then he got Balakoon out in the wing, which got back in, and then Hume was on the end of that. So, I was impressed with them, and Stuart McCluskey as well, just knocking players over like they were kids. I thought Timney had a standout game. Tom O'Toole as well. Ian Hennessy were back, and I think they just had key players back at the right time. I think Sharks looked a bit tired. You know, they had all their, full complement of players. They had some team.
I remember looking at it in paper going, like, the Khaleesi and PP and all the boys, like, this is about 6-7 Springboks in their team.
Yeah.
Like.
But actually, if I'm right, for Munster then to ship 14 points in the last 5 minutes, I was like, oh God, which they did, if I'm not mistaken, when they were down in South Africa against the same opposition. They did 20 plus points in the second half. So yeah, I think they need to be careful of that if they're the same situation now in Munster for their quarterfinal. If they're ahead, they need to be able to lock out a game. They can't keep playing and just switch off, because the 2 tries they gave away, right, grand. For the low one was fine. But I can't remember the guy for the last try, just like chipped from his own 5 metre. Caught it, got it to low, got it back, and then ran it in. I was like, oh God. But I thought it was a cracking game. I thought it was played well.
Schmeck Ulster.
Yeah, I was impressed with them. Yeah, I thought they well managed the game. I thought Billy Burns is exceptional at 10. I think the combination of having Billy at 10 and Lowry at 15 is the way to need to go.
Yeah.
Stop messing around with putting Lowry at 10. I think Billy has now nailed it in. And then Ian Madigan on the bench is obviously there. Stuart McCluskey had a great game. He was back to being really just kind of like orchestrating it and defensively. He made some really good hits. Like, he did the dirty work, then also carried really strong. Himself and Ian Henderson teamed up really well. So it seemed like Ulster kind of had their systems back in play, the right players in the right places. So I'm hoping they don't do that against Munster now when we go up there. But I was also really impressed with Nick Timney again. He's just smashing it. Like, the pace he's running at.
21 tackles.
Yeah, 21 tackles.
21 tackles. He's the highest. He's top of the tackle charts in the URC. Like, so he's
really,
incredible.
He was involved in the turnover actually to win them the game, didn't he? He hit that tackle. So
yeah, he just so nonchalantly goes around about his work as well. Like, he doesn't get too like he's just a really, really efficient player. Like, do you know what I mean?
He's just consistent, isn't he?
Yeah, really consistent. But the issue is now, as we always say, he's not going to fit into an Irish back row because there's no space there.
I think he'd go to New Zealand.
I was just going to say.
I think he'd go to New Zealand, you get some game time, but
yeah,
no matter how good Nick Timney plays, is he really going to push Van der Fleer out? Is he going to push Doris out? Is he going to push Conan out?
Not really.
Then you've got O'Mahony in there as well. It's another option. Like,
yeah.
It's not. It doesn't matter how well he plays, and he's playing fantastic rugby. It's just that he's got actual world-class lions ahead of him.
But these midweek games against the Maoris, I think, will be really exciting because you'll have fellas like Nick playing and Hume and all these guys and Lowry who are class, like, do you know what I mean? So we can end up getting good wins against the Maoris, hopefully.
Hume played well, and I actually would like to see that matchup. Chris Farrell, actually, he kind of schooled Osborne, I thought, yesterday a couple of times. He really showed his experience. So if Dialande is back, I'd love to see the 2 centre partnerships kicking off.
Yeah, Dialande against McCluskey and Farrell is coming into a bit of form. Farrell hasn't had a great season. It's only the last maybe 3 or 4 games he's starting to play a bit of good rugby. Yeah. So he's coming at the right time, coming into the knockout stages. So.
And Hume was full of confidence as well yesterday. So I'd like to see the competition now. That
they kind of had a crack off each other a couple of weeks up there. Delande and Farrell went up to Ravenhill and played against Hume. I don't know who was the other centre at Hume that day, but they kind of got the upper hand on them that day, didn't they? Yeah. So we'll see. Hopefully again now. We definitely need Delande in there though.
He just brings a different physicality, I think.
He does.
And he gets his gain line, he gets your momentum, and he obviously brings that experience, I mean, as a World Cup winner. So
of course,
I think he'll be key to how successful your season is going forward.
He's going to be a huge loss next year, lads. I know, like, Victoria is an All Black coming in, but as far as I'm concerned, like, I mean, you'd want to get glasses if you don't think Delende is the best 12 in the world at the moment. Like, he just is. He's far ahead of everyone. That's how good he is. Like, and even when Munster don't play well, he's just there. Like, and just always looks so cool no matter what he does. It's just everything is just. I don't think people give him enough credit because you're seeing Munster not having a great season. Sit down the next time you're playing. Obviously, there's not that many games left, but you look back on some of his games. Just watch him. Watch him for 10 minutes. Watch what he does. Everything he does, he's just that little bit better than everyone else around him.
He never goes back in contact ever. No. Every time he carries the ball, he goes forward, and his ruck, the work.
Man, he's like another 7 when he hits rucks.
The work he does at the ruck is a joke, and you only really see it if you're like being a rugby player. You'd obviously notice it.
Yeah,
the work he does, he takes on 2-3 men at a time.
Yeah.
So I do think if we're going to go up there and beat us, we need him playing.
Yeah, because that'll be like if you let Timony get in there, tackles, they'll target your breakdown.
Did you see when Timony got that turnover and Sia Khaleesi was trying to get him off the ball?
Yeah, he couldn't, and that's when I was like,
Sia Khaleesi can't get Nick Timony off. And I was like,
I don't think he had a great game, to be honest. I was a little disappointed with him.
He did. He got caught out in the middle of the park when Billy Burns went straight through, which is mad at his level. But I suppose he thought his inside defender was going to get there. But it's still so weird for seeing him to be making those mistakes. But we're all human.
Well. Yeah, he looked a little flat. He kind of dipped, I think, towards the end of the half, and then it's not like him. When I seen their lineup, I was like, no, I don't see Ulster actually winning this. To be honest. And they did. They were deserving of their win, but
they were. They played really well.
Khaleesi didn't have the same impact he did when they played them down there. I don't think.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Move on to Connacht and Zebre.
Yeah.
Just about 22-20 win for Connacht.
Not
a whole lot to play for there, but I suppose, Connacht wanted to sign off with a nice win. A lot of guys leaving, the likes of Deland, Sammy Ireland, Papali'i, Masterson, Matt Healy's retiring. Funny old season for Connacht, lads. I'm surprised they've finished so low, because if you look back on it, they've had some really big wins, haven't they?
They have, but actually I think they've the most points conceded, if I'm not wrong.
Did they?
Yeah, I think so. So defensively, and we've seen that yesterday, there was a couple of times where there's 2 or 3 Connacht men against one Zebre and they just don't make the tackle.
Yeah.
So they kind of ship some poor tries. And I think, again, with the likes of Bundy, Aki missing, Hansen, Paul Boyle, I think was injured. Like when they're missing, and we've said this throughout the season, when they're missing senior players, Irish time, whenever like that, they're really impacted. So I think next season with Dooley and Burren coming in, I think they just need to look at trying to be consistent, and I think they need to have as much energy and impact in their attack as in their defence, because there's no point in having they got big wins, but I think they relied on their scoring press rather than their defence. So if they can kind of balance it out, I think they'll be more consistent. But until they kind of, a bit like Munster, like you said, if they don't have depth in the squad,
it's tough.
It is tough.
Yeah, I was just happy for them that they got to win in their last game of the season, 22-20, and saying goodbye to all those players. I seem to have saw a lot of social media posts that all saying bye to each other. So nice way to kind of wrap up their season. But as you said, Lindsay, they need to look towards next season, build squads around guys like Cian Prendergast, who got Young Player of the Year off the RPI Awards. Yeah. He went out and just got man of the match again. Yeah. His availability is incredible as well at his age.
And he played 8.
Yeah.
He started, 20 out of 21 games. So
which is amazing.
He had huge involvement in 2 of the tries. You know what I mean? So
yeah, him, and then they get Bundy back, Mac, Hansen, the 2 guys coming over from Leinster. So they're going to have a nice squad next year. I think it's just building up again and take the positives, I think. But thank God they got the win, because it'd be so bad losing against Zebre at home last game of the season.
I mean, when you look at the league, like someone like Connacht, I think the minimum goal next year for them should be making top 8.
Definitely.
They're good enough to make
top 8.
100%.
That must be frustrating for Connacht fans and frustrating for Andy Friend. Like when you're good enough to get there, they have the players. As you said, they've made a couple of decent signings for next year.
Yeah, watch the space, I think, when it comes to Connacht.
And actually say for the likes of Dooley, he's not a guy who gets injured. So now Adam Burner has been inconsistent with Leinster with injury, but if they can keep him injury free and, as I said, kind of build some bit of consistency, aim for majority of home wins, which obviously they do in the sports grounds, it's a really, really hard place to go. And then target a couple, the kind of there's nothing guaranteed now at high level anymore. But you know, get a couple of scalps. I think you're right. They need to be aiming for top 8 now.
They've Josh Murphy going over as well, don't they? From Leinster.
Joe, he's a really underrated player.
He's
He
class.
had a class game the other day. His work rate, his line out, he knows his stuff, and like that, his attention to detail is just doing the basics really well. And I think he'll fit into Connacht well. He's also very physical. He's a big guy, so he can play back row, he can play second row. So again, I think that he's adaptable, so it'll give them a couple of options with him. So the best luck. And again, I don't think he's injury prone. Touch wood. Hopefully there's no.
That's it. We're great to see Zebre as well playing well. Good way to finish up their season. They had a couple of good performers. But yeah, nice way for Connacht to kind of wrap up their season. Yeah.
I think Byrne could be a surprise to a lot of people next year as well. He's a guy that, I know as you said, he struggled with injury, like, but people forget how good he is. If you can get him fit and firing, like, he could be a big signing for Connacht.
Oh, when he came on yesterday, he was lively, and he's really, really, like, you didn't think, he's a big guy anyway, but he's just like bulked, do you know what I mean? And I'd say with all the injuries he's had, he's just really put on a good bit of muscle. So I think again, I think the change will be good for him, hopefully. It'll really kickstart his career again.
Definitely. We look at the rest of the results, so we'll do a quick roundup of the poor Welsh sides. Lads are getting battered left, right and centre again. I'm sorry if we have many Welsh listeners, we give you a lot of views, lads, but I mean, I don't know what's going on with club rugby in Wales. There's talks about cutting one of the clubs now again and amalgamations and all this crap, but 69-21 defeat for Cardiff against Treviso. Ospreys losing, I know they only lost 31-38 to the Bulls at home, and the Bulls are playing good rugby, but that's another defeat. The Dragons losing to the weakest South African team home, 21-11. Scarlets losing at home again against the Stormers. These are all home games. Remember this now. This is 4 home games that they've lost there. I mean, they can barely scrape a win together. Do you know? And I know even Welsh International Rugby isn't in a great state at the moment, but club rugby in Wales hasn't been healthy in a long time.
And things the same for their women's. Do you know, nothing has really been invested back in them. So I think the WRU need to look at that because, like you said, it kind of starts at ground up, but it'll feed into the international. And
it's the biggest sport in Wales. It's rugby, like.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? It's kind of nuts. Like,
I'm actually kind of worried for Wales, like, because obviously they're top lads. They have their Liam Williams and whatever kind of in the top team that are keeping that together. But they can't keep holding it all together. They need these club guys coming through. And every Welsh club is playing poorly at the moment.
Every Welsh.
Like, it's like, what are they going to do in the next 2-3 seasons? Like, so you said it comes from the ground up, but then maybe because the women are doing poorly, the clubs are doing poorly, that is it like a director kind of thing? They need to like clear out the boardroom and get a whole new set of heads in there. I don't know what the WRU is.
There's a lot of, what I'm hearing, like, there's a lot of kind of like, I don't know, politics and stuff behind the scenes, like, because you have all that crap as well, like with Ospreys and Scarlets were supposed to come together there a couple of years ago, and then you've got this problems with the regions, and that's why Cardiff got rid of Blues off their name and stuff, and there's a lot going on there. Obviously we're not privy to it, like, we wouldn't know too much about it, but from speaking to Welsh journalists and from reading articles online, it seems to be, it's been a mess over there in general, like across the board for a while.
No, but I think the good thing is, like, obviously we see, like, you know, previous seasons when the South African teams come in, you know, they were poor. Now we can see that 3 out of 4 of them now for this season, like, have made the playoffs. So I mean, I suppose hopefully what we can say to our Welsh listeners, if there's any, you know, hopefully there's brighter times ahead. But I think right now, if you don't stop the rot now, I think it's just going to impact everything. And it kind of has, like you said, Greg, it's impacted across the board, like women's, men's, underage. And if there's no confidence in the WRU, how are you going to attract new players as well? So it's just going to impact them eventually. You know, we mightn't see it this season or next season, but when the likes of Liam Williams and Alvin Jones, you know, they all hang up their boots. Who's coming up to fill the shoes?
It's actually quite scary. I like Wales. Like, I always kind of support them, shout for them. And at the moment, even talking to Welsh friends I have and people, they know it's a problem as well. Like, so hopefully they kind of have a rejig and they sort it all out like the South African teams did. Because we hate to see the Welsh team not performing. Like, with the World Cup coming up as well next year. Like,
yeah, and like I said, the South Africans didn't do much, and then they go and win the World Cup, and then you've confidence, and then people are buying in, and then it feeds into everything, and then you know. So hopefully, I think they still have time, but the sun ain't shining on them at the moment.
What about the South African franchises, lads? I mean, everyone kind of gave out, like, because we had such a bad experience the last time with the Cheetahs and the Kings, like, and they really didn't do well. But anyone that's followed Super Rugby, a lot of people wouldn't have, like, people that follow the DRC or Pro 14 wouldn't have known much about them. But, you know, we've all followed Super Rugby for years. We know these are the 4 big boys coming over, but we still thought it would take a bit of time for them to settle. And first few months of the season, like, you know, they were getting beaten left, right and centre. I know they were missing a lot of players and they had a tough travel schedule. 3 out of the 4 teams all made the quarterfinals, and they have just run riot in the second half of the season.
Well, they were impressive. Like we seen the results. Not what I think we'd only one team won away in South Africa.
I think it was one or two. I think it was two.
Yeah.
Could be right.
Connacht won
And someone
definitely.
else won, yeah.
Edinburgh had a win down
Edinburgh,
there.
that was
as well.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Connacht
that
the
was
only
it.
team to get a win down there out of all the Irish provinces.
It's nuts.
Which is so surprising. And
is
they were
nuts.
so physical.
Yeah.
They were so physical. They targeted the breakdown, and then when they got breaks, Jesus, the athleticism of some of them and the speed and the tries. And it was exciting and exactly what we needed in comparison to the teams, unfortunately, without being offense to them, that we would have had before. But I thought they've really added, and I think it'll help. I know Leinster brought down their kind of young guys, and it helps kind of blood them.
Yeah, we say that Leinster brought their young guys down to South Africa. The same young guys Munster just played yesterday, and we lost to them by 10 points. So, that means South African teams are in really good shape.
Really good shape.
And I think it goes back to a lot of kudos to Rassie Erasmus, because he's drawing these top international World Cup winners back to play in their country, and they're training week in, week out with each other, which is amazing. All the best players in the world are playing every week, which is kind of scary to think how good South Africa are going to be when they all come
World
together.
Cup time.
When they come World Cup time. Oh my God.
Yeah, it doesn't bear thinking about, because you're you're looking at how big they are, and you're like, Ireland really need to probably, look at what style we can play, because actually Ulster opened up, the Sharks yesterday when they kind of drew them in and got little pockets and soft shoulders. But once we go physically against the South African teams, we're only going to come out.
It's only going to make us better though, because we're playing them now. Now we're getting an opportunity to play them.
Absolutely.
How often do we normally get to play South Africa? So you know what I mean? Like the actual Springboks. So now you're actually getting to play these Springbok players regularly every season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're getting a couple of games that can, even the likes of Etsvet and them that are coming back to South African franchise. So more of them, more and more of them are coming back.
Yeah.
So normally, how often, when would a young Leinster player or a young Ulster player get a chance to play Sia Khaleesi? They wouldn't.
I know, they wouldn't.
They wouldn't. Only the top internationals would get a chance once every couple of years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when it comes around to World Cup, we're not used to playing these big Southern Hemisphere teams.
Yeah, or
No,
even
we're playing
Balakoon playing Peat the other day.
Yeah.
But that's amazing, we're going up against him.
That was a nice little battle.
It was a good battle, wasn't it?
One of the best
I loved
wingers in the
watching
world.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the South African teams have really spiced up the URC, because the Welsh teams aren't giving it to us and the Scottish teams aren't really. So South African, fair play to you guys stepping up to the mark.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see one of them get into the final now, which I think they will.
It would be good, yeah. Just looking at the quarterfinals now. So obviously Leinster have got Glasgow at home. The Stormers have got Edinburgh at home. I mean, you fancy the Stormers there to beat Edinburgh at home without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Ulster, then Munster, which you've discussed in detail. And then Bulls and the Sharks in South Africa. I mean, that game could go either way. So realistically, there's a good chance you're going to have two South African teams in a semi.
Yep.
You're guaranteed at least one in a semi there. So, we could end up being something. I don't know what way the draw works with who's on which side, but
Yeah, I'm not sure.
it could be. It'd be pretty good to see in their
Probably
first
guarantee
season.
Leinster will be in one of the spots anyway.
Well,
So.
Leinster have a home quarter-final, a home semi-final, a home final, and I'm not giving out, but they deserve it, but, it's just, it's tough to look at, but they're there on merit, and it, maybe to be honest with you, the one thing I would probably disagree with it, and I do think in any final, especially in a cross-border competition, the final should be at a venue that's picked neutrally.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I
and
will
if it's on
agree
in
with
Dublin,
that.
it so happens to be in Dublin. Next year, the Champions Cup final is on in Dublin. And if Leinster get to that, that's fine. But you pick it, pick your venue a year in advance.
Yeah, and then
it could be on in Paris, could be on in bloody Rome, it could be on anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Or obviously, it should be on in one of the countries that plays in the URC. Could be on the Millennium, could be on the Aviva, could be on in Edinburgh. Whatever.
Because it definitely gives an advantage playing at home. Your home crowd, you don't have to travel. There's so many advantages to it. So I think obviously within Leinster they deserve it because they're playing so well.
No, listen, I agree. Just to spice up the competition, and look, if I was a player, I'd be like, yeah, home advantage. But part of me as well is you don't want to kind of be playing at home if it's a final. You want the atmosphere to be different, and fans want to travel. You want something different because it kind of adds to that event. And
it does. You're right, because it's an event. Look at the Marseille next weekend. Neither of those teams are from Marseille. I know La Rochelle are French, but how cool is it going to be for the Leinster fans to all get together and the flights are sold out flying out of Dublin and coming back. How cool is it going to be for them? Go over on a Friday morning and they'll spend the weekend in sunny Marseille. And do you know what I mean?
Are you just rubbing this in because you're gone?
I'm going to be there in a Munster jersey, I'd say, or sitting in the corner. But it does, as you said, it's that's what it's all about. A final is about going to an event. It's do you know what I mean? And it's not just a day; it's a weekend trip. I'm sort of sick of going to the Aviva at this stage.
You know what's weird to see though? At the game yesterday, it wasn't sold out. I think it's so mad that a Munster-Leinster derby doesn't sell out. And the same when they were in Thomond Park a couple of months ago. didn't sell out. I'm like, what? People just aren't going to games anymore. This is the biggest game, Munster-Leinster. What do you make of that, Jason?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I don't know.
And then you saw a massive crowd at the AIL 1A final. You know, just absolutely everyone turned out. So maybe people are going back to club.
One thing I will say, like I was at the Munster's game against Toulouse and stuff, like 40,000 people made the trip up to that. Like, so maybe just a bit of a burnout, like kind of like it wasn't a huge game to go up and watch Leinster because it was a rescheduled game off the back of blah blah blah. I know Munster had to win. It's like if it was a full Leinster team and a full Munster team going at it with something on the line, you have that stadium. Do you know? And like everyone, it's like that's. I mean, it costs money to go to these matches as well. Like, and travel up to Dublin and get accommodation sometimes, or get a fly back. The price of Peat diesel and petrol at the moment, lads.
But I wasn't lucky enough to be at the Munster Toulouse game, but I heard the atmosphere was like old times.
Unbelievable!
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't believe it. Like at the start of the match, they played "Zombies" by the Cranberries, and 40,000 people started singing it. Do you know? Every now and then you'd feel that Roy just being roared out. Like, and it was very much as close as you get to the old Munster, and you're kind of like, and it was so crazy with the penalty shootout and the extra time and stuff, and like no one knew what to do. And sure, if we add on an extra what was it, an extra 30 minutes of injury time,
rugby,
that's an extra 3 or 4 points then as well. Like, so everyone's absolutely, you know what I mean. So it's good. I mean, I think the fans are still behind them, but that was just probably one trip too many.
Yeah, well, hopefully they travel up the north now for the next game.
Yeah,
I think they will.
Yeah.
I think Stormers might go in confident now into their quarterfinals, considering they won the Shield.
Yeah, look at our Shield winners. So we've got Leinster winning the Irish Shield, South African Shield won by the Stormers, as you said. Ospreys winning the Welsh Shield.
I mean, that has to be positive for Welsh.
Sure, they had some pretty cool wild celebrations for that.
For people that don't know, the Shield is the regions, the trophy you get for winning your region.
Yes, I mean the top club in your region. So there was the Scottish and the Italians were together, obviously, because there's so few of them. There's only 4 of them, so Edinburgh won that.
Yeah, I thought the Leinster guys lifting it yesterday was just so funny. Like, they just, not that they didn't care, but like they just have such other things on their mind, don't they?
Yeah.
Really, like.
I don't think. I think they probably overthought this a little bit when they were bringing in the ORC and they want to inject a bit of life and they want to make things more fun. I think that's probably. I think it's something they probably might scrap and probably should scrap. Because if you're going to do something like a Shield, it shouldn't just be the highest ranked Irish or the highest ranked. It should be kind of like, okay, who won the head-to-head? Like, I mean, didn't Ulster beat Leinster twice this year? Yeah. So, Ulster probably could have had a chance of winning the Shield, even though Leinster finished top, because it should come down to your head-to-head to make it a bit more exciting.
Well, like, look at the Welsh teams. Like, I'm not being funny. They've had an abysmal season. Like, so if I was the Ospreys, no offense, I'm like, we've had the most terrible season. And now we've just won a Shield. I think it's just a bit of a...
I'm sure they all went out in a bender and had their laugh at the Shield.
Yeah, I could see the other side of it. They're like, oh, there's some little shining light, but I'm like...
Well, that's it. I suppose silverware is silverware. Like, but I just...
I see it being scrapped though. Would you scrap it?
I just think there's no real need for it.
Would you,
I'm ridiculously competitive and I'm like laughing at this. Like I would like win and I'd be up against someone for an egg and spoon race, and if I won, I would be ruthless with them.
Okay, now it's time for our Try of the Week contenders. Up first is this lovely try from Luke Morgan of the Ospreys. At least the Welsh teams are good at something. nice little kick in behind there.
Great finish.
We'll give him something. At least he scored a decent try anyway.
Listen, that was a cracking finish.
Well, that's it. The wingers, they just be chasing dead balls the whole time. Sometimes you get a golden nugget like that.
That's a great O'Shea finish all day long. Look at that. That would have been him at the Olympics in the corner.
Absolutely.
I played against Luke Morgan. He's good.
Try 2. We could have picked 3 or 4 from this game, but we went for Munster's Jack O'Donoghue. Great pass by Keith Earls. And just
great hands by Jack.
Absolutely.
Really good hands there now.
I feel like we've thrown that one in just to be nice to Munster. Like it's
he's still had a lot to do now. Give him credit.
Yes, and the last one we have now is Stuart McCluskey's smashing effort for Ulster against the Sharks, where he just runs over lads for fun straight under the sticks.
You not come in that high against Stuart McCluskey. I'm sorry, it's not going to work for you.
Great
I think
finish.
he slagged them there as well.
Ian Henderson does so well there as well.
He does.
It's just really good rugby. Straight under the sticks.
He's a guy, I mean, wonder whether they bring him, give him another chance over in New Zealand. Like,
sure,
or are you going to bring
I think
Hugh?
No harm. Like, well, mind you, again, it's kind of like the back row, isn't it? We had 2 centres for so long, and then we've kind of a few more.
Yeah, I don't know. Who are you voting for?
I'm voting for Luke Morgan. Just as an ex-winger, I just think that's a really good finish at him.
No. Do you know what? I feel bad. I sag this every week, so I'm going to go for the Munster try.
yes, I'm going to take your pity and I'm going to vote for the Munster try as well.
I knew you would.
Win for Munster, yes.
Great finish out of Jack, in fairness.
In fairness, it was. I mean, it was a beautiful flow to pass from Earls, and like the
Absolutely.
hands from Jack, like from a 7 to take it at that pace, and he did well to finish in the corner. So
Yeah.
great stuff, great stuff. And next up, my favourite part of the show, the Jukebox of the week. First up is this banging effort from Jack Morgan against Harold Vosser in the Ospreys game. Nice, low, textbook tackle.
Yeah, it's a great tackle.
This is, kids, watch this on replay. This is how you tackle.
Next up is McCunnough's bone crunching tackle on Ethan McElroy in the Ulster Sharks game.
He spit right
you
into
can
that one and did not
He
see it
got a bit
coming.
of whiplash there, didn't he? Poor McElroy.
I
Right.
seen that. I was like, ooh.
And then finally we have Zebre's Lorenzo Pani's kick and chase and led to a heavy hit on Connacht's Jack Carty. Caught him nicely there. He had a great game actually, Pani.
Great game.
Good player. So what do we think, guys?
I'm going to vote for the last one, Penny. I think because the kick comes in, he has his eye on the ball, then it bounces up, and then he still has to readjust then and get in, and then absolutely smashes Carty. So there's a lot going on in his head there at that time, like, and to still line him up perfectly and get in nice and low, which is what I like to see.
Lindsay?
I'm going to go for number 2, actually, McCunnough, because he's a front rower and I thought he had a good game. I thought his timing was well. I think it was, I thought his...
That one definitely hurt the most anyway.
Yeah, and I could see, I was sitting there watching and I was like, ooh. Part of me was like, felt sorry for McElroy, but then the other part of me was so proud. As I said, I always go for front row. So I'm going to go with that one.
I'm going to go with Pani. I just think that, as you said, there's a lot going on. Kick chase and to time it and to get the nice tackle on Carty was really impressive. So
Great stuff. Great stuff. We will move on to the world news before we finish up, guys.
Yes.
There's loads to talk about. There's a lot going on. Like, rugby is just crazy at the moment. Like,
Yeah,
because
it's fabulous.
we're building up to finals, and there's sevens on, and then there's bloody just everything getting announced this time of the year. Like, so there's a lot going on. But big one, as we mentioned there earlier, is the it was originally supposed to be on in Spurs' stadium there before COVID, the Championship final next year, but there's issues there again with something to do with the World Cup and soccer and stuff, which we don't care about that sport. But anyway,
Yes.
the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup finals are going to be on in Dublin, so brilliant weekend to look forward to, because they're really making a big deal out of this now. It's like it's a whole weekend of fun. It's a whole weekend. Like, Dublin's going to light up. You're going to have a Challenge Cup final on the Friday night, Champions Cup final on the Saturday. Hopefully Munster will be in it.
yeah, I think it's great for
You
the
know what?
country,
You're
yeah.
doing really well there until you said Munster would be in it.
Sorry, what? Yeah.
They will be with the new coaching structure coming in.
yeah.
Munster versus Leinster Champions Cup final.
Now I have to keep
2020.
Second
both
toe
of
scoring to
yous.
try and do a final to win it.
You weren't saying that a while ago now when you per Dialanda, you had a tiny here.
No, I think it's great for the country to have that game coming here. But it's obviously a year away, but it's cool. Cool thing to look forward to.
I don't think we get enough big events because we're such a small country. And this, I think, it'll be good.
We were robbed of the World Cup.
We were
robbed of the World Cup. We'll never forget that. Right? We'll never forget that World Cup. You robbed us. You owe us a World Cup.
Yeah, and we're going to show you how well we can host these finals next year.
Moving on to we talked about this at the top of the show. You were at the Rugby Players Ireland Awards.
Do you know what's really funny? When rugby players, you notice them in their gear, but when they scrub up, you're like, you have to kind of do a double take. Now, that didn't happen with Greg because he's as handsome in and out of gear.
What were you wearing on a?
Oh,
he
it was,
had a lovely green
Who were you
number.
wearing? Sorry, should I say?
everyone was in their number ones. I was wearing Louis Copeland, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Everyone looked really, really well in the night. Lindsay looked great. Everyone, it was a good night, actually. RPI always put on a good show.
I have a
And,
funny story for you, though. So I
Do
wore
you?
a waistcoat, right? And it was lovely, but I just wore the waistcoat. And Mike Ross, who used to coach us at front row, gorgeous man, gave me a hug. There was 2 buttons and he knocked my button off.
Stop.
No
Yeah,
way.
and that was not good before I went up to collect Eve's award. So I had to go out to the reception, get a grooming kit, and I spent 20 minutes
I didn't.
stitching my button back on.
Mike Ross owes you a point.
That was an aggressive hug by Mike Ross.
Did he buy your point, actually,
was
did he?
being gentle. No, he
He
probably
owes you
thought
one.
I was gone home because I
He
was
owes
20
you
minutes
one
trying to
after
sew
that,
my
yeah.
button back on. But Josh Van der Fleer won obviously the men's, and Sam Monaghan, who had an exceptional. Now there was a couple of players who had standout season for the women because obviously we were starting afresh, but Sam was hugely consistent, and it was her breakout season considering she's this time last year she wasn't even in a Six Nations squad, and I think she's only taken up rugby within the last 3 years. So congratulations to all nominees and winners. But I thought
But you think with Josh Craig, I think he was an outstanding candidate. Like, I think that was thoroughly deserved.
It was a tight one. It was himself, Josh Van der Fleer, obviously, Hugo Keenan and Mac Hansen.
Yeah.
3 unbelievable players. But I just think Josh It was Hugo could have got it as well. Everyone would be like, fair enough. But I think Josh
he's elevated his game.
He's just
to a different level.
elevated. Yeah, he's just stepped up. Like, his ball carrying
Yeah.
skills this year has just been immense and very deserving. Sam Monaghan very deserving as well. And she spoke very well in her interview, I thought.
Didn't
Sam.
she? She's a cracking girl.
Yeah.
I can't say enough about her. She's originally a Meath woman.
Yeah. So both
she used to
of
be a
them very
goalkeeper, I think.
No way.
Yeah, for me. Then
That's so
for
common
GA
with you girls. You're all just so multidisciplined at the top level. Like, sure, you playing basketball as well.
Yeah, but she
amazing.
was saying, like, when she moved to England, they were like, oh, she was up for a GA team in Brighton, and they were like, we don't have one. Would you play rugby? And she's like, I'm not playing rugby. It's ridiculous sport. And then, like, now she's picking up a Player of the Year award. It was one of her stories the other night, and I was like,
that's gas.
And it is like, I started in 2015. I got Player of the Year in 2017, probably because I started to understand the game a bit more. I wasn't as Neanderthal now, but I'm not a patch on Sam. I thought her offloads, they really missed her against England. Her physicality, what she can bring in the line out. So I think it's, and the scary thing is there's so much more to come from her.
Yeah,
and she's so humble. So yeah, can't say enough about her.
The other big winners, Cian Prendergast getting Nevin Spence Men's Young Player of the Year. We spoke about him already in the Connacht game. He's a guy that he's still so young and he's playing so well, and he's so durable. What did he play? So 20 out of 21 games for Connacht this year. He's going to go to New Zealand. He's a guy that's already been in and around the Irish squad. I know we've got a lot of back rows, but this guy, there's something about him.
He does, yeah. He really stands out every single game. Like he like Andy Farrell can't ignore him anymore. Like, has to bring him in. I've really impressed him. He's very modest as well in his interview. I think he's originally from Leinster though, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a Kildare man.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. He's kind of a bit like a Tyke Byrne, if I'm not mistaken.
He wasn't wanted by Leinster and he picked up by Connacht, and now look at him.
Yeah.
He seems like a nice guy. Our rugby editor, Pat, was down in the sports ground during the week and he was chatting to him, and there's a interview clips up on Sports Show, and seems like a really nice guy. He's very level-headed. Yeah. He's enjoying his rugby. He's, you know what I mean? Like I kind
of roared at him on Wednesday night, congratulations. And yeah, he didn't hesitate to take the time. Like, thanks. He seems a good guy, and I think he's just gone from strength to strength. And I'd be interested to see with competition in the back row, the same way as Tyke Byrne, he's adaptable, and I think the second row now has gone kind of, you've kind of your back five are kind of all that back row athletic.
You've no choice.
No choice now.
You have to be like, it's not like gone are the days, or I'm a 7, or I'm a 6, or I'm an 8. Now you have to be like basically probably 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah. And Prendergast has played, he's played 6, he played 8 there against Zebre. So again, to have that adaptability at such a young age, and to just, throw himself in anywhere, I think he's, bright future ahead.
He's going places 100%.
Yeah.
Kellen Dara sent with the try of the year for that try against New Zealand, which was an absolute cracking try. Like, I can still remember screaming at the TV for that try. Like, it was just, for a guy his size to score a try like that, it was just, and it was such a key moment of the game as well. It was such an important try.
Well, what I loved was his legs, like sprinter's legs. The knees were up in front of his chest, so nobody could catch his feet. I was like, he knows he's away here. But look, another great deserving guy who's gone from strength to strength, and has been exceptional for Leinster and Ireland. So hugely
top class.
Touching back on the tour, guys, I don't know about you, lads, but I am so excited for this whole 2 midweek Maori games and the 3 test matches. Like, it's like a mini kind of alliance, or it's an old school tour with a big 45 players going over, and
we won't get any sleep because there's so many games.
Yeah, but like we were saying it like in the show only a few weeks ago and stuff, the fact that because we kind of half knew this was happening, but it wasn't officially announced. Like, this is the last real chance to blood in these guys and give them game time, because if we were all asleep for 2 years for COVID, the bloody World Cup's next year, that's September. It's the last opportunity really, because all you've got is November internationals and a Six Nations. Like, that's it really. Like,
and I think this tour will be key to Ireland and their success, not only to who Andy Farrell uses, but how he uses the games. Because like you said, we've now the South Africans that we're playing in kind of a club level, so you get more video of them, you can see them, they're more accessible now. But now we're going to play the team who realistically will be one of the favourites in the world going into that World Cup. So it's exciting. It's exciting for Ireland to get such good competition.
Yeah, do you know what the scary thing is about New Zealand is that they came up here after 18 games in a row or something, lost to Ireland in Aviva, then lost to France over in France, then went home, and no one's heard anything from them since. Like, they've just been quietly going about their business. Yeah. And I was chatting to a guy from New Zealand the other day. I was like, what's going on? Like, no one's talking about New Zealand. Everyone's talking about South Africa, France, Ireland, England, like revamping everything. New Zealand are just quietly working away down there. I'd say they're bubbling and ready to absolutely murder everyone in the world for like writing them off. Be like,
The Blues and the Crusaders are smashing everyone in Super Rugby at the moment, like so.
It's going to be scary, man. I think.
Well, I think it's the same for their women because they didn't have a good tour. They lost to France twice. They lost to England.
They're just gone home to quietly.
I think they've gone home. They've gone underground, and they're just hacking
the Black Ferns are coming back with a bang.
Yeah.
I'd actually be nervous going down there now as an Irish lad. What a challenge, though! Like, go up against...
what would you look at as success down there? Like, should this be all about okay? Let's go down there. Let's have a bit of fun. Let's get guys blooded in, or let's go and try and get a very famous series win and go all out. What way do you approach it?
Yeah, I think just as a natural athletes, like you obviously know, Lindsay, is that they're so competitive, they're going to want to win. Like, win the series,
I know what I'm saying, but what would you be successful? Would we want to reflect, listen, go, we beat New Zealand, we got a series win, or we want to go, do you know what, we got these guys home and we brought this guy through. Is that the way you want to look at what's the success for us as fans?
I think if we go down there and don't get a win, it would be very disappointing. Like, I think one win, it would be decent, but I think they'd be expecting to win the whole series against them, especially if you want to be in contention to win the World Cup next year. But also, I think a big element of it is go down there with 50 players and come back with their top players not injured. Do you know what I mean? Because you think going down there like a Johnny Sexton going down or your Tyke Burns, Gary Ringrose, you don't want those guys picking up big knocks, getting torn to pieces by New Zealanders. So that would also be an element of it for me. Go down, get your experience, but like maybe blood the young guys, give them a shot. You don't need to be playing like Johnny Sexton every minute. Like, you know, he's going to be fine. Like, that would be a thing for me to come down.
Should Johnny Sexton be starting all 3 tests?
I don't think there's any need. Like,
I'm not sure I'd even...
Is there any... He'll want
He's going to... Johnny Sexton's going to want to start against the All Blacks.
Yeah, bring him as kind of that leadership role to help blood other players. But like, to be fair, in my career, I got the opportunity as through an injury, which you never want to see happening. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have had my 38 caps. That's genuinely. Yeah. And the 3 I started against were England, Canada, and New Zealand that year in autumn internationals. And I went from strength to strength because it was like someone flicked a switch. So it was between confidence and I finally knew what I was doing. But I think, for me, the win down there is to kind of, bring the 50 players, but I'd be blooding players, to be honest. I think
Let's not forget we've never won down there either. We've never beaten them in New Zealand.
If we got one win, I'd be happy. But mainly for me, I don't think it'd do us any favours winning that series because I think it's still a year out from World Cup. And we
love peaking too early.
We do. This is what I think the country would be like, we have won the World Cup.
We're putting nails around their necks already.
Like. Look at England. Everyone's giving all England and saying England aren't doing great. Lads, I will put money on the table right now. England will be at a semi-final at the very least.
At the very least.
And
I think right now we just need depth because what we've lacked in every other World Cup when we've underperformed is we've relied on our big players to come and perform, and then when they haven't, we've had no backup plan. And we've discussed this with Munster. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about international or provincial. You need depth of players, you need experience, and I think Joey needs that time really because if... Are
you still going with the Joey at 10 as a successor?
No, I'm not. I'm not sure actually. I think Ross Byrne needs to go as well. I'm not sure.
Harry seems to be starting to hit a Ross now, which is mad. I think there's so many guys at that second level. The Ross Byrne, the Harry Byrne, Joey, Jack Carty, Ben. And then Johnny's just here. Who's going to move into that position? And I know we say it all the time, but I just think Joey is so creative and agile. He's so good at 15. I love seeing him at 15.
And that's a good... So we've kind of him, Larmer, Hugo Keane. So... Right, I agree with you. I think Joey's better at fullback maybe, and we have a couple of more options at 10.
Yeah.
But how do we filter those players through if we don't bring?
We need him through. We need him to come through as a 10 for Ireland more than anything.
We
don't need him to come through as a 15 because we have loads of 15s there, and that's what we need is someone else. Because I'm still worried that something's going to happen, Johnny, come the World Cup, and if he does, like all this brilliant form and all these great wins just goes out the window. Like, because if he's not there, as things stand, we're not getting to a semi-final of the World Cup without Johnny Sexton. We're not. Yeah.
Your halfback pairing is key to any team. It does, it doesn't matter who we're talking about. If we don't have that 10, and like as a player and a fan, like you're like, oh God, it's the person who's the playmaker who pulls the strings. And I know his attitude and his interview with Andrew Trimble. I was like, oh God, he's ruthless when he wouldn't tell him the plays. But I've been on the receiving end of a 10 where they're like, you should know your SHIT. And I'm like,
yeah.
I should, but I really need you right now.
This was Johnny when he wouldn't tell Andrew
Trimble. So he was
you don't get to the level. And what's Johnny's won? 3 Six Nations, including a Grand Slam. He's won 4 Heineken Cups. Might win his 5th the weekend. He's been on 2 Lions tours, won one of them, drawn one of them. Yeah. He's a world player of the year. You don't get to that level. You don't get that good. He's probably will go down in the echelons, maybe the top 5 or 6 out halves of all time.
100%. Yeah.
You know, I put him in the top 5, to be honest with you. Do you know?
Absolutely, but that's
So,
no use to us now if we don't have a second.
That's the issue, yeah.
And
Like,
I think for me, this tour has to be that balance. You know, we do want to be competitive, but I don't think the bigger picture is the World Cup. And
I also think the same story with the scrum halves. I think you need to bring down a couple of them. You need to bring down Casey, bring down Nathan Doak.
Yeah.
I know, I've started to change my tone.
But you're doing
You've
got to be playing your Caseys and your Dokes on there. We already know Gibson Park is absolutely class.
Gibson Park,
not
Murray.
that old. Murray, like everyone knows what Murray can do. Everyone knows what Murray can do. Same as everyone knows Slex can do.
I'd even bring Caelan Blade down there as well. I think he's playing really good rugby over in the sports ground. Those 3 guys would have to go and play a lot of rugby for me, I think, to have them ready to go. Because as you say, Gibson Park and Murray, they're good. They're good to go. Like, you don't really need them playing. Like,
no.
So it'd be interesting to see what Andy Farrell does do.
Yeah. I trust him. Moving on to the sevens, lads.
Yes.
We're actually recording the show late on Sunday, so we got a chance to see it. Beaten by Fiji in the final, but they got to the final, lads.
Their first final.
Do you know, it's their first final against, to lose to the back-to-back Olympic champions isn't all that bad. Like,
it's an incredible result. It's actually unbelievable. And the women have done so well as well.
Yeah.
I'll speak about the men first, is that it's the best result for men's rugby ever in sevens rugby, to get to the final, get a silver medal. And they played well against Fiji, but Fiji are double champions, Olympic champions.
Yeah, they're
like
the best
team in the world by
goodness.
and when Fiji decide they want to play, they're just, you can't beat them. Right, you know? And the funny thing is Ireland actually beat them last week in like a first round game. They went out and beat them. So the boys are in really, really good shape. And I think it's because they've had a big mix up of like coaching staff. They have new young guys in. Terry Kennedy is just probably the best sevens player in the world. Top try scorer in the world at the moment. Top carries, he's DHL Impact Player of the Year. He's unbelievable. Jordan, I'm just so happy for those guys because the grind they put in for the last couple of years to now start getting results. And it's every week they're getting the results. It's not just a once off. Now they're sitting 4th on the table. So I'm actually going over next week to London to watch them play. And I can't wait to see them all. Like,
nice.
And the women have done really well. So shout out to the women as well. They've been consistently playing well, getting 3rd, 4ths. Which is really such a
semi-finals, isn't they? Yeah. So.
But they've had to change a coach as well. I think some fresh impetus there with new players, and they lost the 3rd place playoff to Fiji as well, which again another top class team. So huge congratulations to both teams.
Exactly. But the women got their medal a couple of weeks ago, didn't they?
Absolutely in Spain. Like again, their first final win, and they've just gone from strength to strength in his confidence. And I think they were probably unlucky in that playoff with 2 yellow cards, and that can obviously impact you hugely. But I think it's especially in a World Cup year, it's big positives for everyone. So I think it'll be just building on the World Series now in preparation for July for the qualification.
The qualification over summer and Rugby Europe, and because Ireland didn't play in Rugby Europe last year during COVID, they opted out of it. They now have to go into like the 2nd league of the Rugby Europe
and qualify
to get into the top league of Rugby Europe, to then win Rugby Europe to get into the World Cup.
Really?
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
It's absolutely nuts.
Even though they're 4th in the bloody World Series at the moment, someone needs to look at that.
It's kind of like a foregone conclusion. It's just formalities to get through, but they have to play so many more games now in the build up to the World Cup. Like,
it'd be just injury and load, but the extra games you can't complain. It's just the impact, if you're missing players.
How many games, like if you're over in the World Series, how many games do you play a day? Is it 3 or 4 days?
6 games in a weekend, 3 a day.
3 a day.
The thing is, it's 3 warm-ups in a day as well, and then it's also the you train during the week. Like the load is crazy. Like it's up like the top fellas like the Terry Kennedys and Harry McNulty's will be covering 30k in a week, easy 30-40k.
What would you do in between games? Say you've done your warm up right, and you've done a warm for every game, and say you've played a really big game in the middle, and it's an absolute like hellish affair. What do you do then, like while you're waiting around for the 3rd game? Like, do you warm down? Do you just relax?
So raw. You'd have lads sleeping in the dressing room, like
really?
Lying down underneath the bags. Like there's always a place for food, or lying out literally on the tarmac. Like it's so raw, man. It's hilarious. But that's what sevens is. It's known as the traveling circus. Like top athletes in the world, and they just all herd together. People sleeping everywhere, but that's the beauty of it as well. It's just so accessible and so entertaining. Like so,
I want to go to one of the tournaments. Actually, they're good buzz.
Come over next week to London.
I'd love to see them bring one over here. I think it's something they would do really well. They made an attempt at it, but they didn't do it right. We had that World Club 7 series that was on in Limerick, and then brought up to Dublin for a while. But they didn't do it right.
We were supposed to have the Olympic qualifier here.
Yeah, if we had something like a proper event, like the one you're going to next week, like there's loads. If we had something like that on the Viva, I think we'd get a good turnout, because Irish people, first of all, we love a bit of crack. A day out drinking, a fancy dress. it's suited,
teams
it's
are good.
suited us.
Yeah.
And you're saying that to get a chance to watch proper international teams, like to get out for a weekend to watch Fiji, Ireland, New Zealand, Australia.
South Africa.
And
Yeah.
the
South
other
Africa.
flip side is, right, they're over in Toulouse, the sun is shining. It just gives it that, you know,
Okay,
je ne sais quoi.
you'd have
Then
to
you
give
go
us
to
one in
Ireland
June.
and it's like, you know that wet rain. You're like,
No, you'd have to plan it. Like the only time we can host one, it has to be like around June. Like
Yeah.
at least we're guaranteed a little bit of good
yeah,
weather.
June bank holiday. There's
June
always
bank holiday
holidays,
weekend, come over to
I
us.
think it'd be
Happy days.
amazing. Not even the Viva, the RDS.
There's
like,
loads of
do you know
places
what I
you
mean?
could
It'd
go.
be
Loads of
amazing.
places.
Hotels
I
all
think
over.
the Viva would be nice.
Yeah,
What
well, the
else
Viva
then?
would be nice. I just like to make sure you'd pack it out, like, you know.
50,000, I suppose.
Yeah.
There is a good like traveling like fan base for the Sevens.
Oh,
so,
we've
like, isn't there,
sevens. They follow us all over the world. Like we've been
So
to
there you go,
Moscow, we've been to Hamilton, New Zealand. They always come. Like there's Irish all over the world. You see,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they flock out. But yeah, well done to the boys and well done to the girls. They're
Yeah.
flying it.
great stuff.
I'm going to continue.
Moving on to the big game next weekend. I'm sure you're looking forward to it.
5-star.
Me, I'm not. Look, come here. I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm heading over to it myself. I mean, to be honest, like I'm just gonna kind of tweak my eyes a little bit, like and just pretend they're wearing green because it's pretty much 13 out of those 15 players start
what
for
you're
Ireland
telling
anyway.
me is
So, well, come here. Look,
you're going to be up for Leinster.
it's a funny one, right? For me, it's a very funny one because obviously, like, we need to address the elephant in the room and the fact that the head coach of La Rochelle is Ron O'Gara.
I know.
And probably like the greatest Munster player of all time. Like, I mean, the grow up anyone from Munster has for O'Gara is just incredible. Like, so one side of me is like, yeah, I mean, you got to back the Irish teams. Like, just like, I you know, as I said, most of them play for the national team, you know, and it's a fellow province. Like, but the other time it's like, oh, I love to see O'Gara get a win. Like, you
So
know.
who are you shouting for then?
I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
See, I think the one guy who can really kill us is O'Gara. Do you know, on paper now, looking at, you know, our semi-final against Toulouse, we were sublime.
Yeah.
I watched Racing against La Rochelle, and to be honest, I think Racing were a bit, they shot themselves in the foot, like they could have won it. Do you know, but now La Rochelle, like absolutely, they worked their socks off, they targeted a breakdown, they got some good turnovers, but I still think Racing had enough to win it. But I just feel like Ron O'Gara is plotting. Like we're talking about New Zealand going down under, I feel like
He's
he
a damn
is going
good
to be
coach. Like,
he is going to be consumed this week and hatching a plan. And
do you think he's going to come out with something like? Does he have something hidden up his sleeve? I wonder. First of all, before we get on to that, who do you want to win?
Well, I've just luckily know a lot of the Leinster lads, so
Okay.
I think my heart will be with those lads, and just
Fair
they
enough.
happen to be wearing Leinster jerseys, probably shouting for them. And I think it's the Irish. You always got to back the Irish team. I hope La Rochelle play well, and I hope Rog puts up his hand as a coach at that top level, which he has done before. Leinster went over to play La Rochelle last year in the European Cup, and La Rochelle beat Leinster, so they have the mental edge as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
What was it, 35-23?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're not 100% sure whether or not Tyke Furlong's going to be fit or not yet. I think he's going to be okay, but I mean,
Now, I think this is going to be key. I'm glad you brought this up because we were obviously discussing this for the
his
show.
Tyke, as good as Leinster are and as brilliant as you are, you're going to be significantly weakened when you lose Tyke Furlong. Like Tyke Furlong is here, and here the rest of the tight heads in the world are here. That's how good Tyke Furlong is.
Can we mention his pass out to Hugo Keenan
Ah, lads,
in
the 30-meter
against
pass.
It brought tears to my eyes. I was like,
a prop,
he's
slinging
like,
a 20-meter pass at full pace.
We've never seen anything like him. Like we've never seen a tight head like him. I don't think we will see anything like him for a long time. But as you said there, I mean, if he's out, it's huge.
well, see, even your baseline, right? Your set piece is going to be key. I think it's going to be a war of attrition between two packs. And I think whatever pack is superior will have a big impact on the result next week. So not only what he brings in a 30-meter pass to put your fullback away, you know, your tie head is your biggest paid in your pack really, because they're so key to the scrum. So I think on a base 7, and then we were chatting before the show, like Alatoa will come in, but who will be, you know, on the bench? Or will they look at maybe Porter starting and then Cian Healy coming in and moving Porter over to tie head? I don't know. I'm just concerned at who the backup is.
Just hope he'll be fit.
Well, let's just pray for that.
Just hope he'll be fit. Looking at La Rochelle, then it looks like they're going to have Will Skelton come back in. Like, and Will Skelton is an absolute monster of a second row. Like that can make a huge difference. He was massive against Leinster in that game where they won. He was probably the best. I think he got man of the match in that game. I could be wrong. I'm not
did,
sure,
yeah.
but did he? So
I think so.
he's a
140 kgs. Like, imagine. trying
and he's
to
lost
tackle
weight.
Oh my god, it's like trying to tackle two men. Like, he's incredible.
But they're missing Kerr Barlow, obviously the former All Blacks scrum half. Like he's a big loss to them, but they still have Yaya West there at 10. So I think they're going to target as you said, how Munster targeted Leinster up front and it worked for them. I think they're going to target Leinster up front, and they've got someone like E.I. West who can sing penalties. He's got some very important kicks for them this year in the top 14, and that's the game plan they're going to play. They've also got some good backs like as well. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion Leinster are going to win this.
No, I don't think so. And I
Definitely
think
not.
their ruck speed is so quick, and that's been key to Leinster's quick game. So I think that's another area they're going to attack, is probably try and slow the breakdown. And I'm kind of thinking, like, I think, it's cliche, but Johnny Sexton will be key. And I think the forwards will be key, but I think then our backs, how we get the backs to the ball, and I think if Lowe can continue on is the season he's had, I think he will be key.
Yeah.
To this game next week, but I think it's not going to be down to one player. I think it's going to be a kind of knock on a series of events that, someone will get the accolade of the try or whatever else. But I think also if Leinster can frustrate La Rochelle and kind of manage the game, take the penalties, not always keep ball in hand, I think mix it up, it'll be better. I think Cullen and Lancaster will have to be as astute in their tactics as we think Ron O'Gara will be in his.
For me, if I was to have to go up against Leinster, as like Raj, like how are we going to beat Leinster? I don't really see where Leinster have any weaknesses. But for La Rochelle, I'm like, you could probably get them. Their back threes aren't that solid. You could ping balls up in the air. They're a bit weak back three. Ohio West, he's a good 10, but he's not that solid. He's a bit jump around. They're missing their 9. So there's a couple of cracks in the La Rochelle team that you could go for. But Leinster, I'm like, how do you beat Leinster? Like?
I think it'll come down to it. I mean, like, we look back at the last time Leinster won it in 2019, and then they had the 2020 they had Saracens, and everyone thought it was a foregone conclusion. Leinster won it, but Saracens just came out and bullied them, and just got in their faces, and they won that game. But I think the big thing that's probably going to go against La Rochelle, I know they got to the final last year against Toulouse, but Leinster, they said they last won it in 2019. A lot of the guys who are going to be playing this weekend have won it, have been there, have been to the top of the mountain. And I know it's a cliche and it's kind of, everyone says it, but it's, once you've done it, it's a lot easier.
Well, you know how to win.
Do you know what?
Yeah,
Do you know
winning
what I mean?
is a habit.
These guys are kind of going in we lost the final last year. They lost the top 14 final last year. It's tough to come up against. And Leinster they're serial winners. They know how to win. And if it's a tight game and it comes down to it, like we saw the opposite with Munster the weekend, they're going to have the cool heads. They have the Johnny Sexton going, okay, relax, don't worry. We know what to do here. It's an 80-minute game.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
agree
So
with you, yeah.
that's a big thing in a final, and it's going to be it's on in the Stade Velodrome in Marseille. I think it's 66,000 from what I'm heading over myself, and there's a couple of little lads coming over from Joe, and they're trying to get flights over and stuff, and there's no flights back into Dublin at the moment. They're all sold out. So I don't know how many is going. I have my flight already, thankfully, but if that's the case, I'd love to know, there must be 30,000-40,000 Leinster fans travelling, lads. So
and
that's going to be huge.
Yeah. It is going to be huge. And you know what's funny? There's something different about Leinster this year with this 5th star. They want it. And actually, I was doing a leadership course through RPI. And on one of them... They enough room for 5? I think they do. We might just,
I was looking at a beer now at the old 2 at the moment.
We might loan you one if he's really struggling still in the next couple of seasons. But actually, Ryan Bard brought up an example, and he actually mentioned the 5th star. It was a kind of random example he was bringing up, but I remember it sticking to me going, this is weeks out. You haven't even kind of reached, I think they must have got through the quarters against Leicester. But I was just in a random leadership course on a Tuesday night in a Zoom, and his example was, no, we have set our goal as the 5th star. And I just seen that against Toulouse with the speed. And I think, I'm just not sure they will be beaten. I know it's hard to see them, but I just think there's something different about them. And I think they've managed their players very well, which again is testament to their depth of squad. And I think, other than La Rochelle getting in and flustering them early, I think if they let Leinster, start their engine and let them go into cruise control, I don't see them being
Toulouse have 5 now. Was last year Toulouse 5th or last year, or they're 4th? I remember they matched them. I think Toulouse are on 4. So the 5th with Leinster in head, I think. I think Toulouse had 3 for years and then got their 4th last year. And to match Leinster, and now this week for Leinster to be the most successful team in the history of Europe again, so something to aim for, isn't it? Okay, guys, unfortunately, that is all we have got time for this week. It's good to be back, Lindsay, wasn't it?
It was great to be back. A great show as always.
It was a great chat. I really enjoyed it. Now, hopefully, Leinster get the win next week and bring the European Cup back to Ireland. And hopefully, the London Sevens goes well for the men and women. And also, a big thank you to our partners, Bank of Ireland, proud supporters of the 4 Irish provinces.
And just to let our lovely listeners and viewers know, we won't be recording until Monday next week, so you will have to wait an extra day to hear our lovely voices and look at our beautiful faces. Thanks a million, guys.
Joe presents House of Rugby, United Rugby Championship, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.